Welcome to Study Smart, the weekly show for wine students who want to take their wine education to the next level. I'm your host, Gill Gordon Smith, and in this episode we're breaking down another important wine region. With exam strategies and techniques to help you reach the next level in your wine education, this is Study Smart. Hello and welcome back to Study Smart. I'm Gill Gordon Smith and I'm your tutor for this journey. So in our previous episode, we travelled through the warm Mediterranean landscapes of southern France. So today we're moving west and inland, following the rivers that connect Bordeaux with one of France's most varied wine-producing areas. So welcome to the Dordogne and southwest France. This is not one single region with one dominant style. It's a collection of separate appellations, each shaped by its position, climate, grape varieties, and local traditions. Close to Bordeaux, the wines can feel familiar. Bergerac and Montbazillac use many of the same grape varieties as their famous neighbour and produce dry red, dry white, and sweet wines in recognisable styles. As we travel further inland, however, Bordeaux becomes less important. The Atlantic influence weakens, summers become warmer, winters become colder, and local grape varieties begin to define the wines. So this is where we find Malbec in Cahors, Tannat in Madaran, and Petit Manson in Jurançon. The key idea for this episode is simple. The further inland we travel, the more distinctive the wines become. So as always, keep asking yourself one WSET Level 3 question. How do geography, climate, grape varieties, and human decisions influence the style, quality, and price of the wine? The Dordogne and southwest France lie inland from Bordeaux. The Dordogne and Garonne rivers have played an important role in the region's history. For centuries, wines travelled along these rivers towards Bordeaux before being exported. These river systems also help us understand the geography. Bergerac lies closest to Bordeaux and still experiences a strong Atlantic influence. Further inland, Cahors is situated along the Lot River, where warmer conditions and well-drained slopes help Malbec ripen. Madaran lies further south, while Jurançon is positioned close to the Pyrenees. This creates a clear geographical journey. Near Bordeaux, the climate remains maritime. Further inland, continental influences increase, and closer to the Pyrenees, altitude and mountain influences become more important. Near Bergerac, the climate is maritime. Temperatures are moderate and rainfall is relatively evenly distributed throughout the year. These conditions are similar to Bordeaux, so they allow Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Sauvignon Blanc, and Semillon to ripen. But rainfall can increase fungal disease pressure and create vintage variation. As we move inland, the Atlantic has less influence. Summers become warmer and winters become colder. These warmer summer conditions help late ripening varieties such as Malbec and Tannat achieve fuller ripeness. Near the Pyrenees, warm days and cooler nights create another important effect. Petit Manson can accumulate high levels of sugar, but still retain naturally high acidity. So this allows Jurançon to produce sweet wines that are rich, but still balanced and refreshing. So the progression is maritime near Bordeaux, more continental inland, mountain influence near the Pyrenees. This climate journey is one of the easiest ways to understand southwest France. Soils vary throughout the region, but the most important point is how they influence drainage, vine vigour, and ripening. So near Bergerac, the soils are similar to those found in neighbouring Bordeaux. Further inland, river terraces, limestone slopes, and well-drained hillsides are particularly valuable. Good drainage limits excess water and reduces vine vigour. Lower vigour can lead to smaller berries and more concentrated fruit, and this is especially important for Malbec and Tannat. Both of these varieties can produce deeply coloured, structured wines with high tannins. Well-drained, warm sites help these grapes ripen more completely, producing riper fruit flavours and more mature tannins. So better drained sites can reduce vigour, improve ripening, and increase concentration. Natural factors create the growing conditions, but human decisions determine the final wine style. In Bergerac, producers blend varieties to balance fruit, acidity, tannin, and aroma. In Cahors and Madaran, the challenge is often tannin management. Malbec and Tannat can produce powerful wines with firm structure, so winemakers may control extraction during fermentation and use maturation to soften the wines and create balance. Maturan is also associated with the development of micro-oxygenation, a technique used to expose wine to very small amounts of oxygen during maturation. This can help soften tannins and stabilize colour. For sweet wines, vineyard decisions are critical. In Monbazillac, growers may selectively harvest grapes affected by noble rot. In Jurisson, grapes may remain on the vine late into the season, and several passes through the vineyard allow pickers to select only the ripest grapes. Across southwest France, the goal is the same: to use human decisions to balance ripeness, acidity, tannin, sweetness, and concentration. Bergerac is the logical starting point because it's closest stylistically to Bordeaux. The red wines are commonly made from Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Cabernet Franc. Merlot contributes plum fruit, body, and softer tannins. Cabernet Sauvignon contributes black fruit, acidity, and structure. Cabernet Franc can add red fruit, herbal notes, and freshness. The white wines are commonly made from Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. Sauvignon Blanc contributes acidity and fresh citrus or herbaceous flavours, while Semillon contributes body and can also be used in sweet wine production. Bergerac can produce red, white, and sweet wines. Think of it as the bridge between Bordeaux and the more distinctive wine regions further inland. Monbazillac lies within the wider Bergerac area and is known for sweet white wines. The principal grapes are Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscadel. The key factor is botrytis cinerea or noble rot. And under suitable conditions, noble rot causes water to evaporate from the grapes, concentrates the sugars, acidity, and flavours. The resulting wines can show honey, apricot, peach, and marmalade characters. Although the wines are sweet, acidity is essential because it keeps the wine balanced and prevents it from tasting heavy. So for the examination, make that connection clear. Noble rot concentrates sugar and flavour, acidity balances the sweetness. So Monbazillac is therefore a botrytis sweet wine, very similar in principle to the sweet wines of Bordeaux. Cahors is the historic home of Malbec. The region lies further inland, where warmer summer conditions help the variety ripen more fully than it often could in a cooler maritime climate. Malbec produces deeply coloured wines with black fruit flavours, firm tannins, and good aging potential. The best wines come from sites that allow complete ripening while maintaining balance. Compared with many Malbec wines from Argentina, Cahors is generally more savoury and structured with firmer tannins. Those warmer inland conditions help Malbec ripen. Malbec gives deep colour, black fruit, and firm tannins. Careful extraction and maturation help manage the structure. So, for WSET Level 3, remember it's always about cause and effect. Maturan is defined by tannat, and the name gives us a useful clue because tannat is naturally very high in tannin. The wines are deeply coloured, full-bodied, and strongly structured. The warm summer conditions are important because tannat needs sufficient heat to ripen fully. If the grapes are not fully ripe, the tannins can feel quite hard and aggressive. So this explains why vineyard site, harvest timing, and winemaking is so important. Winemakers may use controlled extraction, maturation, and micro-oxygenation to soften the wine while preserving its depth and aging potential. The easiest memory link is Maturan equals tannat, tannat equals deep colour, full body, and very high tannin. The Côte de Gascogne IGP is best known for fresh aromatic white wines. Uni Blanc is an important variety here and contributes high acidity. The IGP classification gives producers more flexibility than a traditional PDO. This allows them to use a range of varieties and create accessible fruit-driven styles. The wines are typically light to medium-bodied, crisp and refreshing. They are usually made to be consumed young and can offer excellent value. So for the examination, remember IGP means greater flexibility. Côte de Gascogne is associated with fresh, high-acid white wines. Jurisson lies close to the Pyrenees and is strongly associated with Petit Mançon. Petit Mançon is particularly well suited to sweet wine production because it can accumulate high sugar levels while retaining naturally high acidity. The grapes may remain on the vine late into the season, allowing them to concentrate. Selective passes through the vineyard ensure that only the ripest grapes are harvested. But unlike Monbazillac, the sweetness in Jurisson is created by late harvesting and concentration on the vine rather than noble rot. So this produces sweet wines with concentrated fruit flavours and refreshing acidity. The essential comparison is Monbazillac gains sweetness through noble rot, Jurisson gains sweetness through late harvesting. but both require acidity to balance the sweetness. When answering questions on southwest France, don't simply list regions and grape varieties. Explain that relationship between the natural factors, the human factors, and the wine style. For Bergerac, connect the maritime climate and the Bordeaux grape varieties to familiar red, white, and sweet wine styles. For Montbazillac, explain how noble rot concentrates sugar and flavour. For Cahors, link warmer inland conditions to the successful ripening of Malbec and the production of deeply coloured tannic wines. And for Madaran, explain why Tannat requires warm conditions and careful tannin management. For Côte de Gascogne, IGP, explain how the IGP classification provides flexibility and supports fresh, fruit-driven white wine production. For Jurançon, explain how late harvesting concentrates sugar while Petit Meursault retains high acidity. The strongest answers always explain why the wine tastes the way it does. So let's finish with those key takeaways. Southwest France becomes less maritime and more continental as we travel inland. Bergerac shares Bordeaux's grape varieties and produces red, white, and sweet wines. Montbazillac produces botrytis sweet wines from Semillon, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscadel. Cahors is the historic home of Malbec, producing deeply coloured structured red wines. Madaran is based on Tannat and produces powerful, full-bodied wines with very high tannins. Côte de Gascogne IGP is known for fresh, high-acid white wines and greater production flexibility. Jurançon is associated with Petit Meursault and the sweet wines made through late harvesting. And above all, remember that journey. Bordeaux influence near the Atlantic, more distinctive local varieties inland, and mountain influence near the Pyrenees. If you understand that journey, it'll help you explain the style, quality, and price of the wines. So, now for another study tip. So far we've explored how memory works, why forgetting matters, focus, cramming, mixing topics, visual learning, deeper understanding, sleep, movement, and why learning that feels a little harder can actually be a good sign. So today we're going to bring things right into the modern study world. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. And here's today's idea. AI can actually make you a better learner or a lazier one. So I'm going to say that again. The smartest use of AI is not about getting answers. It's about improving your thinking. Now, this matters because AI is incredibly tempting. You can ask for summaries, flashcards, explanations, practice questions, even instant answers to difficult concepts. And some of that is genuinely useful. But the problem is, if AI does all the thinking, your brain does less learning. So remember what we talked about in episode 1? Recognition is not memory. And the same principle applies here. Reading an AI explanation and thinking, yes, that makes sense, is not the same as being able to explain it yourself. So let's bust a myth. Using AI automatically makes studying smarter. Not necessarily, because passive AI use can become passive learning, and passive learning is rarely strong learning. So, what does smart AI use look like? It looks like using AI as a study partner, not a shortcut. For example, if you're studying wine, ask AI to quiz you on Bordeaux classifications. Ask for blind tasting prompts. Ask it to compare Barolo and Brunello, then explain the differences yourself. Ask it to generate short answer exam questions. That's active learning because you still have to retrieve, think, explain, and apply. It's very different from summarize this chapter so I don't have to read it. AI can also be brilliant for elaboration. Try asking, explain this differently, test me harder, challenge my answer, or ask me follow-up questions. That turns AI into something much closer to a tutor. So here's your experiment for this week. Use AI once, but only to make your brain work harder, not easier. So ask it to quiz you, challenge you, test your explanation, push your thinking. And here's your reflection challenge. Am I using AI to strengthen my learning or avoid the difficult thinking that creates learning? Because the future is not about avoiding effort. It's about using smart tools wisely. And the best learners will still be the ones doing the thinking. So see you next week for another region and another Study Smarter tip. Thank you for listening to Study Smart. If you're ready to take your wine education to the next level, why not visit the Italian Wine Academy at italianwineacademy.org. Don't forget to tune in next week when we'll be exploring another important wine region. Until then, chin chin with the Italian wine people.